Welcome to the November 9th version of the Zooch and Wilde podcast. Zooch, how we doing?
Doing good, doing good. Excited
I'm
to
doing
talk football.
I'm doing good as well. Yesterday we were going to record yesterday, and I'm glad we recorded today. I was tired. I was also pissed because the Nuggets almost gave away a win to the Warriors and Curry missed a free throw. And I don't know. The Nuggets, I don't know, this is basketball, but the Nuggets are just the most infuriating team. They're like it's like a college team come to life. Like it is Purdue in the NBA, but they win. They just give it to the big guy, and like that's their offense. Like they just give it to Jokic, and he runs it. But no, it's going well. We had another great week of games.
We
Another
did. It
big
was a
week.
fantastic weekend of games. Good
Very
games all day.
very specific hat choice this week. Totally unrelated, right? Totally unrelated.
Totally unrelated. No bias at all.
No bias at all. We're gonna get into the Ole Miss game and some of those big games later. But at first, we try not to talk about the BSU talk because there are so many outlets for this team already. But the Eric McAllister transfer, I think I'm looking at this through a couple of ways. For the people who are way too deep into like the team, like me, you, kind of the circle that we watch college football with, we knew this was coming. We knew that calls were going to come. What's happening, I think, is that the casual Bronco Nation fan is finally woken up to the brutal reality of modern college football. Like I'm seeing message boards. It made me so sad. There was this woman, and people were posting like Eric McAllister, and people were like, "Well, he should have left," and like he's a coward, and like all this stuff. And like I don't want to get into like any of the opinion. He did what he thought was right, but then this old woman, she just posts like, "What is NIL? Can someone tell me like what that means? I'm so confused." And in that moment, that's when my heart dropped because I was like, "Oh no, they're like." The reality is going to hit these people that like they just like supporting Broncos, and like the reality of the big money finally is hitting a large portion of Bronco fans.
Yeah, and it's one of those things to where now, with the big money, not that schools weren't giving players money before. I mean, obviously, we all know they were, but now, and I don't know. There probably should be some changes to it. I don't look into it enough to know if there's stuff about NIL I don't really like, but
yeah.
Now it's, I mean, and I get, oh, what if like these guys from BSU or wherever smaller schools go to these bigger schools and they don't play as well, like they aren't as dominant. That's not that's not what they're thinking. Like obviously the big recruits get missed all the time, right? Like guys who end up being really good in college or in the NFL, like they get missed for a million people play high school football. So.
Mahomes went to Texas Tech, like that's.
Mahomes went to Texas Tech. There's all kinds of them that ended up being. Sauce Gardner is another one. He ended up in Cincinnati, stuff like that. But if you're a college kid and you start hearing rumors that these other schools want you and they can offer you a decent amount of money, like it truly to them at that, like not complete life-changing money, but
I would say for a lot of 20-year-olds, like six figures is life-changing money.
Yeah, exactly.
Six figures to 90% of 20-year-olds would be life-changing money.
Right. So you can't. I mean, that's for me and the Boise State thing. Like, play the game. You know what the game is now. You have a city that has. We have Micron. We have Simplot. We have big companies here.
That's what my opinion. You have to fight fire with fire. Like that's what I'm talking.
You can't sit around and be like, woe is me, because no one else cares about that's what the game is now. It's going to be based a lot on NIL, and people can say it's not going to last. Like there are people that have a lot of money that they don't even bat an eye about giving a lot of money to a college each year through. And it doesn't, I mean, like,
I think people are starting to come around. I do think right now, Bronco, like Boise State fans, they're split 50-50. There's the 50% that is like full in, like, hey, like we have to attack fire with fire. Like we have to be aggressive and sometimes be scummy. We're going to have to. I think I made a point. I was talking in a group chat. I'm like, Boise State, whether Andy, this is kind of writing on the wall of what's probably going to happen in the offseason. Sad or however you feel, this is complete writing on the wall. But when you look at this, I think Boise State, whether it's this coaching staff or the next coaching staff, they have to be aggressive. And in my opinion, almost like a step below Coach Prime aggressive, I think, in the transfer portal. And it's gonna, in my opinion, it's gonna stink in a lot of ways, because there's gonna be a lot of people who are great in this community. There's gonna be a lot of players that people have latched onto because they're good players and they're great in the community and they represent the school super well. But you have to get better, and you always have to bring in competition. And I'm looking, and besides Ashton Genty at running back, our offensive line in the linebacker position, I don't think there's a position group that's safe from massive transfer portal competition. I'm not saying that, bring all these guys in and take their jobs, but like bring in competition from the portal, fight fire with fire, and let's get this show back on the road going, because I'm tired of seeing 5 wins. It's 4 wins. It's embarrassing. Or 5 wins, however many they have. It's pathetic. It's not the standard. And I hate the people that go like, hey, like, you guys are being so negative. It's like, just because I say this is a disappointing season, the team is disappointing me. That doesn't make me a hater. It just it shows that I care. I want them to be so good.
No, exactly. And that's the most frustrating part to me, is we have basically facilities and stuff like that compete with a lot of Power 5 schools.
They outmatch 80% of Group of 5 schools. I would say they're better than 80 to 85% of Group of 5 schools are.
We have 3 fields to practice on, including an indoor field. We have a decade-old at most now football complex with the weight room and I don't even know, whatever like a hanging out room, I guess, with like a pool table and all that. You have the little water things that when you're rehabbing, you can like walk in the water. You have everything you could possibly want as truly you could want as a player. And it's
consistent big crowds,
a good fan base. We're playing a team who's 2-8 or 3-6, whatever they are. That New Mexico, they're bottom of the barrel of Division I football teams. They would not even be good in FCS.
They got a pretty weird stadium. Have you seen their stadium?
Yeah,
their football. It's the one that's like they made it back to back with the track and field stadium. So on one of the sides, it's like the track and field bleachers, and then it like meets up, and there's like this little road, and then it's the football bleachers.
It's not great, and there's still. I think we're up to like 32,000 tickets have been sold. So like 3,000, and that's the low point. Like that's the lowest amount. We fit 36,000, about 32 are out right now. Maybe it'll get a little bit closer. It is a late game and both teams have a losing record. So I completely understand people saying, no, I'm not going to go, and spend my money on that. Like this week, I'll watch it on TV because they're not really playing, like they're not playing for much. And I know people don't want to hear, like always have the people who's like support the team no matter what. I'll be at the game. I'll watch the game after the, if it was at the same.
That is supporting the team. People think that supporting the team means you have to go in blind and just be like, rah, rah, rah. I'm not going to question anything. No, supporting the team is continuing to pump money, continuing to watch games, continuing to go to games. But when the product is not up to the standard, respectfully say this is not up to the standard.
Right. And if you want to be taken seriously, then you don't just sit around and go, all right, well, 3 straight years of 4 or more losses, because they were 10-4 last year or so. Mm-hmm. 2 of the last 3 have been 5 losses at least. This year we're already at 5, probably going to be at more than that. No Mountain West championships this decade, which is like 2, and only 2 or so.
We're going to be halfway through. Next year we'll be halfway through the decade with no championship.
Right, and it's like you're not, like you eventually, if you keep doing that, you build yourself into this thing where there is no really getting out of that hole unless you make a splash hire of a coach who is, we've seen it happen to programs who have a lot more funding and all that. Tennessee, Nebraska, Michigan, was like that for a long time. Florida's in the middle of it right now. You can't just keep like other teams aren't going to keep losing. Georgia fired Mark Richt because he was losing 3 or 4 games a year, which is by a lot of teams. Yeah, I agree. By a lot of team standards, that's really good. But realistically, 100 of the FBS programs suck every year.
Yep.
They might have a good year like every once in a while, but like there's about, I would say, 30 to 40 programs that you're like, you know what, they're usually pretty good.
Bowl eligible is the goal. Like that is their like goal. It's just let's get the. I'm gonna end it on this. I don't want to get into like why he left or whatever. I'm just hoping that whoever is the coach in the offseason, whether it be Andy or the next staff, can minimize the damage. Because if they can rally together, the team, and minimize damage, because there's going to be more transfers. Everyone should be prepared for that. But if you can minimize that to only a few, there's still a lot of talent on this team. And I think next year can be good because the 12-team playoff. The 12-team playoff's there. It's attainable. And one playoff run next year can change everything. So I'll leave it at that. We've already been so pessimistic with BSU this year. We might as well have a somewhat uplifting and positive segment, right? Try to stay positive. I think at this point, we both, at least me, I've finally come full circle on like the stages of grieving. And now I think this transfer, Eric McAllister transferring, was finally my acceptance transfer. Like, yes, we're going to restart and it's going to be awesome.
My acceptance was when I went to go to the bathroom after we scored with 4 seconds left in the first half, and I come back out and I just see flickering lights in the Fresno Stadium and Andy Avalos sitting around bewildered at what I was like, what just happened? I like legitimately, I was like thinking in my head, I was like, did they like call the touchdown back and like a picks? Like, what the hell happened?
Also, this weekend did solidify that Fresno State fans do get on my nerves. Totally forgot about them. They are some of the worst. So Fresno State, not you.
They're
you are on the
Park
list.
USC.
You are on the poo list right now, and we will be coming. Like just like I said to Oklahoma, who we're going to talk about next, making Butch Jones cry. All that talking, you just wait. The Coach Prime. What's the Coach Prime quote? Get us now, because it's the worst we're ever going to be. You better get us now. If we're going to come back hard, and I'm not holding back. And I will tweet the video of the fight that happened 2 years ago when we do.
Hey, yeah, they're Trailer Park USC. That's what Fresno State is.
That's awesome. Well, let's get into the games last weekend. We had some good ones. I want to start it off. We reached out to Cody Voisin for comment about this, but he was too distraught. Zooch, do you want to quickly, in about 30 seconds, to describe the scene at the sports bar that Cody, as people who listen to the show, our resident spokesperson of Sooner Nation, watched his team lose in the last Bedlam?
Okay, so I know people on this show don't know Cody, but Cody is almost like a dad in a lot of ways, and he'll repeat 1 point 15 times during like a football game.
He'll latch on to something.
He'll latch on. Like he mentioned the cornerbacks being small at Oklahoma.
So I have a funny thing. He's been mentioning that, Cody, and for those of you who know, Cody was the one who gave who I think rallied Oklahoma to beating Texas, because looking back, there's no reason they should have beat Texas. So Cody, you get the win there. He's been talking about Oklahoma's quarterbacks being small since I've met him. That was like in since I've started watching college football with him. And that was like in 2016, 2017. He was going, freaking guy Norwood, he can't tackle Sonny Michel. And like, geez, that was like 5 years ago.
So we were at a restaurant, and we're like, all right, we're going to go watch this LSU-Alabama game at Big Al's, because they have a bunch of TVs. We can watch a bunch of games, so on and so forth. So we get the restaurant we were at and Big Al's are like 2 minutes apart. We're walking over there. We get there. He goes straight to like the bar part to watch the game. Bartender's like, you look like you need a drink. Cody's like, not yet, not yet. I get a video of him watching, for some reason, Oklahoma. It was like the classic Oklahoma thing of like, all right, we need 6 yards, so I'm going to not run this. I'm going to run this out 4 yards instead of 6. Yeah. But by far, the best part was then we went to like the main area of Big Al's to watch the rest of the games. and Cody stood there for at least 10 minutes just looking at the TV going, clap. And all these Oregon fans are trying to watch the Oregon Cal game. And they just
First of
kept
all,
looking like,
okay, also, Big Al's great establishment if you can get the Pac-12 network. So they're doing something right.
oh, yeah.
Whoever's managing the TVs over there. But that's funny. I think the big takeaway from this game is Sooner Nation, their college football playoff hopes are toast. Oklahoma State, while your college football playoff hopes are not high, Big 12 is right there for the taking for Oklahoma State. The Big 12 is right there for the taking. And Mike Gundy, he is like what James Franklin should be. It's like, you don't got to make a run every once in a while, but damn it, win a big game. And that's what Mike Gundy does. And Oklahoma State every year, he's always good for winning a big game.
He's always good for that. And looking back, they got killed by South Alabama.
I know.
And
imagine if that goes.
Like that. And this was a year where they had a ton of guys transfer out, and they're just right. I mean, they'll have a pretty decent bowl game, probably.
Props to Mike Gundy.
They should win it. I think they're favored in every game they have left, and Oklahoma State is never going to get the shine that Oklahoma and Texas and all them have. But if he can keep doing what he's doing, he's going to have a really good chance to be like the premier
Big 12 team. There's a power vacuum, and we'll have to see next year because I think Utah is going to be a heavy hitter in that conference. I really do. And I think BYU, as much as I don't want to admit it because I don't like them, I do think BYU was the best out of the new teams that they added just in terms of infrastructure and history of football and winning. I would take BYU over Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston any day of the week. But yeah, no, it is almost like a power vacuum in the Big 12 right now. So going to be excited to see. We're going to move on to the next game. Washington stays alive. That was probably the most exciting half I've seen in a while.
It was great. It was
that fantastic. First half of the Washington USC game. That was insane. Some of the throws Michael Penix was making, that tight end balled out of nowhere. Some of the throws that Caleb Williams was making, and it was in the second half, the one on fourth down where he just like scrambles around and just launches it to Jerry Rice's kid who catches it. Like that's insane. The whole crying after the game thing, I don't care at all. Like people cry after the game. The whole like, oh, I'm gonna go home and like watch TV and like hang out with my dogs. It's like, it's not the best, but like Jameis Winston got suspended for like stealing like from a grocery store, and he still went number 1 overall. So I don't get the people that are getting like, oh, Caleb can't lead my team. Like whether the dude was right in his assessment, at least he's being honest. Like he was honest in his answer, and I have no problem with it. He's still easily, in my opinion, the number 1 quarterback in the country.
Oh, by far. And we're in that weird time of the year now where they're gonna like hyper analyze it. Like they already started with Caleb Williams with he's never won a championship game, or he's never won a national championship or a playoff. Like who cares? Like that really means
Patrick Mahomes went 7-5.
Yeah, like Patrick Mahomes went 7-5. Like
Jared Goff, who's balling out right now, who I don't think is as good as Caleb Williams, went like 7-5 on a Cal team. Also, I blame Sonny Dykes for that. Sonny Dykes, you are the Sonny Dykes mister. Sonny Dykes is the most average coach. If you had an AI generation of, man, give me the most average coach, it would be Sonny Dykes, and then it would be Rocky Long as a D coordinator.
Going back to it, I don't get the like hate on him. I get like that there's probably going to be some scouts and owners and stuff who are like, oh, I don't want him crying, but it was like I think it was more like a frustration more than anything. It's not like he's played really bad. It's like, oh, I throw
Who cares? Wouldn't you rather have someone
400 yards every week and we lose because Alex Grinch?
The problem, he's gone. The bad man's gone. The bad man is gone. I mean, Alex Grinch, what a sad. Although there's going to be a team that picks him up, and it's going to be hilarious. Yeah. I think if anyone needed, I was about to say if anyone needs the Alabama analyst job more than Alex Grinch, I don't know, because I don't think they exist. The Alabama analyst job was built for someone like Alex Grinch.
Yep.
Like total ego death. You've been in over your head. You got promoted young. He's a younger coach in terms of coaching. Go to Alabama. You probably have the money saved up where you can live off an analyst salary for 1 or 2 years and prove that you really love coaching. Like prove to yourself that this is for you. But it's so funny. I'm going to miss Alex Grinch and his terrible defenses and their linebackers who are like 5'10" and they don't practice tackling. I'm going to miss that. Okay. Question before we move on.
Yes.
How awesome would an Iowa USC game be? Brian Ferentz offense versus Alex Grinch defense, and then you have the complete opposite Lincoln Riley offense versus Kirk Ferentz defense.
It would be amazing. It would be the funniest thing. Like
we're gonna get it next year. I think we're gonna get it next year. Don't they play each other? But Brian Ferentz and Alex Grinch are gonna be gone. Thanks.
Sadly.
Thanks. Jeez,
the matchup we've all been waiting for.
For real. I mean, that would have been the funniest thing ever. It would have been. Although part of me thinks that matchup would have just turned out like the 2015 Rose Bowl, which I found out if you tweet Iowa fans about that, they act like it doesn't exist. Like I one time quote tweeted like an Iowa fan, and I was like, yeah, Iowa's good, but like sometimes they blow it like this. And I just tweeted the box score of Christian McCaffrey, and they're like, don't know about that. Like that's a fake game. And I'm like, okay, kind of like also Cyclone Larry popped up again. I gotta get that guy off my feed. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Bama, not much to say, but they solidified themselves as a contender. And I don't think that hit was targeted.
I don't either. That's one of those things that people like want to get when your team loses. You always have the people who go. It's like the whole like blaming the refs for a loss because like. You lost. It's fine.
Yeah, A multi-score loss does not come down to a targeting call.
Yeah, Jalen Milroe had 875 yards rushing. That's why you lost, not because of Jaden Daniels getting hit. And like that's, I mean, I said it a few weeks ago. I said it's starting to feel Alabama's gonna be.
It's gonna be nightmare scenario. I told my nightmare scenario, which will be awesome, but like makes me so stressed out. Alabama wins out, beats Georgia in the SEC championship game. So there's 2 one-loss teams. Michigan, Ohio State play each other close. Then the winner blows out the Big Ten West team. Washington loses. So there's no matter who wins, there's a one-loss Pac-12 championship team. Texas wins the Big 12. FSU stays undefeated. There's like 7 teams that have a legitimate shot to be like, we should be in. But I don't want to even think about that. I'm going to let the season ride, have a good time.
Speaking of that, have you realized, or is it just me, that like every white dude who has some type of talks about college football on Twitter has their own like formula for how they decide who's going to win games now?
Yes. Like I remember like it started with like Josh Pate. And like he was like, it's just a computer. I'm just listening to the computer.
Everyone has a model now. I'm just like, and some of it's like the most. I don't even know what word to call it.
I saw someone's model, and it was like literally the exact same, except it was like a different 25 team of the nation other than JMU. It's like my specialty model like did everything. It's like this is literally the coach's bowl.
Right. It's like some stuff. I'm sorry, you can't put it on the computer and be like, oh well, you know what? In the second quarter, between minutes, the 12th minute and the 1st minute or whatever, LSU got 6 yards a carry. That means Alabama's not as good as everyone's. Like that's the kind of stuff now we're like getting like into.
Hyper-analyzing.
You're just like, stop hyper-analyzing it.
We're in the point of these people. It's coping. It's coping. It's people who are like. Because if you're Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, Florida State, those are not the hyper-analyzers because, and I would say Oregon too, those are the control your own destiny.
Yeah.
It's the Alabamas, it's the Texases, It's the LSU's that are like, oh, we have to do this. Like we got to do all this. So I guess Bama can control their own destiny too. But I don't want to.
I have a hard time believing if Alabama wins out, and I know everyone wants to say it would
Georgia.
like.
I think that Georgia would be the team that's left out. Their
Yeah,
strength of schedule, and it would be shocking because I think they dropped from like 1 to 5.
Which, speaking of Georgia, and we'll talk a little bit about them later, I would love for BSU to go. Basically, their last loss had been in a Mountain West championship game 2 years ago, but I cannot imagine the amount of stress you'd be living under trying the three-peat. Like, it would be amazing, and I honestly feel like when you did lose, you'd kind of be like, well, I guess it's bound to happen. But now you're deep enough into the season where even at the beginning of the season, if you're like, oh, we're probably not going to three-peat, but I'm going to go until we lose. Now,
I mean, you know Kirby though. He's got the propaganda Kirby.
He does. He loves seeing those rankings of them as 3.
Oh my gosh, I almost want to rank him at 1. Just like I honestly think he's gonna find sound bites of us talking about him, and like I don't put it past Kirby Smart to like he has like a scour the internet guy to like search just for Instagram reels and clips and be like, look at this guy. He said Georgia was number 4 in the country. Are you kidding me?
The moment that turned Kirby was the good guy, and his own mistake turned him into the evil man he is now. And that was, do you remember in that?
I don't think he's evil.
I don't actually think he's evil.
He's like the stoic villain. He's like Thanos.
What turned him into Thanos was that play, and I want to say it was the 2018 SEC championship where they were tied with Alabama with like 3 minutes left. And for some reason, he ran a fake punt on like 4th and 11 that they just snapped it to Justin Fields, and he got like obliterated. Yeah, it was the game Jalen Hurts came in and like led Alabama back. That made him. Kirby's collecting the whatever they call them, not the rings, but
Infinity Stones.
Infinity Stones. He's collecting them now.
People do forget Kirby Smart thought Jake Fromm was better than Justin Fields.
Yeah,
Jake Fromm. Oh my gosh, what a legend! I wonder what happened to that guy. But let's move on. Any other games you guys talk about? I'm not thinking. The game at Wrigley Field was pretty terrible.
It was, absolutely horrible. I can't imagine sitting in the cold and like watching like that. It's so boring. Like it's unbelievably boring. Like I'm not saying games have to be like the USC Washington game, but you want a little bit of excitement in it. Like
Northwestern Iowa. I think it's so bad it's good. Like that's the way you have to go in there. It's so bad it's good. But we got some good games. That was a fun week. But Zooch, I'm gonna let you start off with this one. This is the star of the show. This is the make or break game for Ole Miss. Hashtag come to the SIP. What do the Rebs need to do to beat Georgia this week?
Okay, so and this part of it isn't biased. Like obviously I've talked myself into them winning the game, and I do think they have a chance to win the game. Georgia hasn't looked invincible this year, which now I say that, and Georgia it'll be like 28-0 in the first quarter. But tell me if you disagree with this. I think Ole Miss has the best wide receiver on the field in Trey Harris. I think he's better than anyone, unless Brock Bowers plays, which he's technically a tight end.
If Brock Bowers plays, you are going to be looking. I don't want to bring this up. If you bring up if Brock Bowers comes out, it's going to be like Sting in 1998 Nitro, and Ole Miss is the NWO, and he's just gonna bat all you guys down, and there's nothing you're gonna be able to do about it. And then Jackson Dart's gonna be like Hulk Hogan in the middle, going like, whoa, and you got to pray Bowers doesn't play.
I hope he doesn't. I think he probably will a little bit. I think they know they probably need him to get back to help out. Their offense hasn't been bad. Carson Beck has actually been really good.
Beck, if he calf tattoo.
He's an iffy person. He does not meet the standard looks wise of the traditional SEC quarterback.
The Snapchat scandal also did not help in the beginning of this year.
I forgot about that.
Yes. If you're an SEC quarterback, just do WhatsApp. Do not use my advice to any Southern Division I quarterback. Just do not use Snapchat. Just only not even SMS text. Just use WhatsApp, maybe Instagram DMs. That's it.
Right. And you also don't need to be sitting that because, like, think about the position you're in. You're playing quarterback at Georgia, not just any SEC school right now. Georgia, who's on a dominant 2+ year run. You don't got to say stuff like that. Just you go to a frat party or whatever and say you play quarterback at Georgia. You're going to be the starter next year. You'll do okay for yourself, I would have to assume.
Mm-hmm.
But continuing on that, I think offensively, Ole Miss is better than Georgia. I think they have the best receiver. Fair. I think they have the better running back, and I think right now they have the better quarterback. But I also think that their defense has been a little bit iffy at time. And what I mean with their offense is like Texas A&M actually has a pretty good defense. And for the majority of that game, Ole Miss was able to go down the field. Now they
got an arena football player playing quarterback at A&M.
That is true, Max Johnson. Yeah, speaking of A&M, I honestly think Jimbo Fisher should probably get another year because they have had a lot of injuries this year. And I know that's not the popular take of him getting another year, but
knock off a couple million off the buyout. Like, what's the?
Yeah, I think they've had a little bit of unluckiness happen to him this year. But the Ole Miss defense is going to have to play a little bit better than they have. You can't allow. I think they have to. The defense has to play like they did against Alabama, and keep Georgia in the 20s, maybe at the most 30s. They're not going to go in and win 52-49. Georgia's defense will be.
I agree. I think Georgia's defense is too good. They're a machine. They're going to be coming out. This is the game that Kirby Smart lives for. This is the game he's going, people are really talking that Ole Miss can beat us. You also got to take into account it's a night game in Athens. They only get 1 or 2 a year, I think, right?
Yeah.
They only get a few a year. Are they wearing the blackout
uniforms? I hope they do, because when they wear those, they normally lose.
Really?
Wear those, I remember the first time they wore those was
I just blinded by the Noshawn Moreno doing the Soldier Boy in the blackout, because that's all I think of.
That year that they wore those, I believe it was the first year they wore those. It was the year after they had killed Hawaii in the Sugar Bowl. So they came in as number 1. They were returning Stafford and Marino, returning a decent amount of guys, but I think they lost a lot of people, and they wore those against Alabama at home. And Alabama was up 30-0 at halftime or something.
Was that Mark Richt?
It was Mark Richt, yeah. It was not Kirby.
Man, Mark Richt, how did he blow so many teams with that much talent? I guess that's why he got fired.
Yeah, no. So I do think Ole Miss has a chance. And I think part of that is Lane Kiffin, too, because I think a lot of teams go into playing Georgia and they know how good they are and that they haven't lost in 2 years. And they play a little bit of they get into those 4th and 3s at the 50 in a situation where a lot of teams you would go for, but I think they get worried we can't turn the ball over right here and let Georgia get it and have it at the 50-yard line. Yeah. I think Lane Kiffin will go for those. I think he learned in the Alabama game
you have to be aggressive. You
have to be aggressive. You have to be aggressive, and you have to pick your shots with them. You're not gonna line up and beat them in the trenches.
I agree. I think Georgia's avenue to winning is a defensive coming out party and Carson Beck playing well enough to score 28, 30 points, and they win. I think it's going to be closer than people think. I do think it's going to be a close game. I think Ole Miss is going to play well. It's like I said, Georgia and Alabama, they're almost like the Patriots with Brady. I've been saying it. It's hard to bet against them until they prove you otherwise.
No, I agree.
So,
but the best part about this game is right before that game, not leading into that, because the Ole Miss game is on ESPN. This game is on CBS. If Tennessee beats Missouri Saturday afternoon, they have to cheer for Lane Kiffin to beat Georgia because they play each other the following week, and that
Big
would be
Vol Daddy, all the humanity.
It would be a quasi SEC East eliminator. The winner would go to the SEC championship.
Now I do want to see Ole Miss win. Okay, I'm rocking with Ole Miss. Let's do it.
There we go.
Come to the SIP. #come to the SIP.
And it's just unbelievably funny to watch because I was like, I couldn't sleep
Ole
last
Miss
night.
is going to be fired up because of I think they're going to be fired up because of the video that leaked.
Oh yeah, that video, like I said, it wasn't a great look, probably just an audio of him like yelling at somebody, but you can't not answer your coaches, specifically your head coach, for 2 weeks, and then come back and say it was that and not expect ramifications. Like that's not how life works. And part of me is like, oh well, Lane Kiffin said in the video, like, how do you what world do you live in? And any other, if you and I didn't call our boss at work, didn't show up for 2 weeks after we got demoted or whatever, like, because his position got moved. If we got like demoted or moved and we didn't like it and didn't show up for 2 weeks and said
without any contact, like not just showing up, like not even like returning a call,
right, we would lose our job. And I think that's part of what he was trying to say. And like I'm sorry, that's how football coaches talk. I worked for a football program for 5 years. I've heard what they say, like specifically when they're position coaches and are going after someone. Yeah, they don't talk to you like a professor is going to talk to you. I don't know if people think that's how.
I think people kind of sometimes. This is the last thing I'll say before we move on to the next game. I think it's when you see all these new NFL coaches, and the NFL is a different ballgame because they're grown ass men. Yeah. So it's more like a co-op of a company, right? Like everyone, it's like a bunch of partners, and they all kind of have a managing partner, but they all have equal skin in the game. So it's more of like a people manager. Like if you're a successful college coach, like you are running the show, and you are the judge, jury, and executioner. So I think some people kind of like be like, oh, but in the NFL, people are like, wah. It's like, this isn't the NFL. This is college football.
And it's one of those things. I mean, like, it's not like Lane Kiffin hasn't been yelled at before. He was always getting chewed out by Nick Saban when he was there. There's the famous video, they were up like 49-3 on Western Kentucky, and Alabama fumbles, and Nick Saban is like just going at him. Nick Saban goes at players all the time. And most of the time the players are like, oh yeah, you know what? I deserve it. Like I messed up. That's, he was fired up about it. I'm not a big fan of recording someone in that situation. It's not like he was doing something, absolutely horrible, like calling him the N-word and stuff like that. Like I understand recording that, but you're going to record the coach going off on you because you didn't show up for 2 weeks because your position got moved, and then come in and like sue the school. Like he's still on scholarship. Like they still are giving him a scholarship and all that. He's just not on the team. And I don't think other players probably would want him on the team because that would be a bad look.
It's probably not best for him if football is what causing the mental health. Maybe a season break from football is what he needs. I mean, I don't know, but all we can hope is that I agree with Lane Kiffin and the decision he made, and I hope whatever the D tackle was gets better. You know what's not going to get better? It's James Franklin's standing after this game.
It's not.
You like that? The Scandal Bowl? The Scandal Bowl? I think this is just going to be the most classic James Franklin game of all time. I think he's going to blow it. I think Michigan's going to dog walk him. I think Michigan is a pissed off team right now. And while I think J.J. McCarthy is a little bit like iffy and like, is he overhyped or is he actually the real deal? I know Michigan is the real deal as a team. And I know Drew Aller doesn't throw the football more than 6 yards for a pass.
Right.
So
I agree. And I think we're getting into that like little phase with Michigan a little bit that you've seen with Alabama before, and you've seen with Georgia, where most people know they're going to be favored and probably win easily. So they try to create these narratives to get people to watch. So people are like, oh, maybe the game will be closer. Like Michigan isn't stealing signs. Like, I still don't think the sign stealing thing is all that big of a deal, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, this strikes me as a game that the Penn State crowd's going to be all rowdy and go 3 and out, and Michigan's going to score immediately on their first drive, and then Penn State will get a first down, and then like go for it on 4th down and not get it, and Michigan will be up 14-0 on their first 2 drives. Basically, that's what this game.
I'm tired of Penn State fans telling me that Drew Aller is like the best young quarterback in the league.
He's
I've been
not.
holding on for this take for a while. Can you like prove it? Like I'm sure he's elite, but they don't let they seriously don't let him throw the ball more than 9 yards for passing. I
No,
don't think I've seen him throw a football 20 yards in the air. And he's
no.
supposed to be like the best QB prospect they've ever had.
Yeah, I'm not. Penn State's a weird, like,
Next year, they're waiting for the 12 team.
they are waiting for the 12 teams where they, and I can't wait until some of these schools like Penn State or who's in it, like these Penn State type Big Ten schools, Penn State, Wisconsin, all those schools. I can't wait till that 12 team playoff where they get in as like a 10 seed or however the seeding's going to work, and they get matched up against like the clear third or fourth best SEC team, and they just get dog walked. Like they're going to get like LSU, who's like,
going to be, or it's going to be like Penn State at 10, and they're going to draw. Like Penn State will draw like the Big 12 champ that gets like left out, and like Baylor will just like beat the crap out of them. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Let's move on to the next game. Utah UW. I don't really have much to say about this game. I think UW wins close, but not like handily. Like just another like kind of good game from them, but not great. But I think UW's kind of a machine now, and I think they're just kind of looking for. Because what are the games on their schedule? Let me look this up.
They have this game, Washington State. It's whoever they play in the middle of those two.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to look up. Washington schedule. Huskies. I don't want the Washington football team. So they play Oregon State. So it goes Utah, Oregon State, Washington State. That's a tough slate, actually. But I think Washington's looking good. They're a team that controls their own destiny. I think they're looking good. The offense looks good. The defense looks good. Like this is like this is the first like Pac-12 team I've seen be like well-rounded with size and athleticism. This is a Pac-12 team that doesn't look like a Pac-12 team, if that makes sense. The last team I think that looked like this was Mariota's Oregon teams, where it's like this doesn't look like a Pac-12 team. They got big offensive line, they got big offensive weapons, they got a good quarterback. I think UW kind of handles them.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this one because I do think that Utah probably didn't play as good as they could have in that Oregon game where they just got absolutely obliterated. And I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like UW's now entered that territory where, I mean, maybe if they lose one, they would still go to the Pac-12 title game at this point. But if they lose, like,
I think
like if they lose, like they're basically every game for them now is a playoff game, in my opinion. Like I seriously find it very hard to believe that if Michigan, let's say Michigan and FSU, or sorry, let's say Georgia and Michigan or Ohio State are undefeated, and Florida State's undefeated, right? So those three are in no matter what. I find it, or even if Georgia lost, I find it very hard basically that a one-loss Washington would get in over like a one-loss Alabama.
Or even a one-loss Texas.
Yeah, I just find it in the playoff, it's going to be I honestly think this season is striking me as one that there's going to be a little bit of.
Oh, no, there definitely will be. And of course, it comes the year before we have the solution to this. And next year, it's going to be like a 9-win Wisconsin team that gets the 12 seed. Yeah. Like that's how these things work.
Which I did create a scenario going back a little bit to where Ole Miss gets in the playoff.
You stop.
I created the scenario. I wrote it down with Cody present and had him go over it with me. I had him reading me.
Okay. I will give you this. If Ole Miss wins, if Ole Miss beats Georgia, then you may tell me this scenario next week.
Deal.
Because I will not listen to this scenario because there's a pretty big step this week in that scenario. So if they beat Georgia, I will let you say. I will let you say the scenario. How do you like this one? Loser to the Gator Bowl. Tennessee versus Missouri.
It's the perfect name.
The loser of this game will be playing in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, and the winner of this game will be playing in the Capital One Bowl in Orlando against Iowa. So who knows? Maybe like what's another bowl that these two teams can play in? Tennessee and Missouri. I feel like Missouri's good for like what's like the bowl? The Music City Bowl. That's the one I'm thinking. Music City Bowl. Yeah, they're good for that. That or the Birmingham Bowl. Like, no, the Birmingham Bowl is too low. It's too low.
That'll be like Auburn will be in the Birmingham Bowl, something like that.
Yep.
But this game's funny, and like I was watching a couple of people talk about this game. And we call him Moonball Milton, and I completely forgot.
Moonball Milton.
He did this. Do you remember the first game Lane Kiffin had back at Tennessee where people were like throwing the golf balls and mustard and stuff? Milton was starting for Tennessee that game, and it was the last play of the game. It was like,
oh my gosh,
third and goal, but it was from like the 18. And for some reason, there's 4 seconds left, and he scrambled around and then just ran out of bounds.
Yeah, that was that game. I'm part of it. How did we let Tennessee fans convince us that Joe Milton was going to be the second coming of Hendon Hooker? He literally got benched for Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
Like, if people were like, he's the best quarterback in college football that hasn't played. It's like, yeah, he's a fifth year that's already gotten benched. Yeah, he's not the best quarterback.
No, he's not.
Football. He's not the best quarterback in the SEC. He's just not.
No, the East is like probably the SEC East. We talk about memes all the time. If you look at the SEC East, you have Graham Mertz.
Yep.
Is a meme. Spencer Rattler.
All-time teammate on the QB1 show.
All-time teammate on the QB1. You have Moonball Milton. You have the Cook guy from Missouri.
Carson Beck.
And then I can't even think of
Vanderbilt.
Kentucky or Vanderbilt's starting quarterback.
Vanderbilt. Oh, Kentucky is that isn't it O'Leary? The guy doesn't he have like the worst completion percentage in the nation or something?
Yeah, it's just hilarious because you have the West and he's hurt the West has Jackson Dart, who looks good. Jaden Daniels if LSU was a 1-loss team instead of a 3-loss team, would be the clear Heisman front runner. Jalen Milroe looks a lot better. Not Nick Fitzgerald, the quarterback at Mississippi State, who is doing pretty good under Mike Leach, but I kind of feel bad for them this year. Yeah, I cannot think of that kid's name off the top of my head, but he's usually pretty good. You have KJ Jefferson, who's at Arkansas, who's good. And then you have Auburn, who just
although their quarterbacks aren't
Peyton
terrible. Yeah, like if Peyton Thorne's the worst QB in your side of the conference, that ain't bad. But yeah, I think Tennessee wins this game. I'm tired of Eli Drinkowitz. I just want him away. So I want Missouri unranked so I can stop talking. Did you see him flip out on the sideline of the Georgia game?
Yeah.
He flipped out, and it's, dude, relax. That guy's so wound up, and he wears his visor terribly. Like, that guy just can't. I'm not a fan of Drinkowitz. But yeah, any other games we got to touch on? Anything else?
I don't think so. We hit on pretty much the biggest ones coming into this weekend. So
fair enough. Well, that brings us to the meme matchup of the week. And Zooch, I'm going to start this one off first this week. My meme matchup of the week is an FCS matchup. It is the Florida A&M. What are they? The Vipers? The Snakes? The Rattler Snakes?
Rattlers. Yeah, the Rattlers.
The Florida A&M Rattlers versus the Lincoln College Oaklandeers. And I think we have a scenario on our hands where we are getting Bishop Sycamored. The Lincoln. So I'm going to show you this. Lincoln is 0-11. It is their first year as a Division I college football program. They have not played a single home game all year. When you look them up on ESPN, this is what comes up. Can you see that? There are no players on this team. I look at their schedule. This is their schedule. So they've played 11 games this year, right? The Lincoln Oaklandeers. I'm from the Bay Area. I've grew up watching college football teams in the Bay Area. I had never heard of this team. I looked them up to see where their campus is in Oakland because I know like schools around here. I know the area. Their school is like a single office building in downtown Oakland. Look them up. They have less than 1,000 kids at the school.
Lincoln, Oakland.
Lincoln Oaklanders. They, I think, either had a big time donor donate to make them a football team, or they're trying to get into football. My question is, why didn't you go Division II or NAIA? Is it a scholarship thing? Is it a money thing? I don't know, because they don't have a home stadium. They played all away games. And look at these scores, right? So I don't even know some of these teams, but they played Cal Poly on the 16th of September, lost 41-20. They lost to Southern University 45-18. They lost to Tennessee State 58-0. They lost to Southern Utah 35-6. Lost to Kennesaw State 28-12. Lost to New Haven 38-0. They haven't scored more than 20 points in a game. And that was to Cal Poly, the worst FCS program in the country. What are we doing here?
They literally began football in 2021.
I know. They're a brand new team. I don't think they're real. I think this football team is not real until they win a game, and then they are very real. But that's my meme matchup of the week, because Florida A&M is one of the best FCS teams in the country at 8-1, and they're playing probably the worst Division I football team in America. It would not be surprised if this is a 70-burger.
Yeah, that seems like not a real school, if I'm being...
I know. I looked them up.
I can't even find their head coach. I just typed him in the Google, and he like...
No, yeah, you can. It's tough to find information on them. And like I looked it up, apparently like Gary Payton's coaching like their women's basketball team or their men's basketball team. I don't know. If someone knows about Lincoln College in Oakland, please let us know, because I truly don't think they're real. I don't think the school's real. I mean, you don't have athletes in ESPN. So by that metric, you are not real.
You do not exist. Okay, well, I do enjoy that meme matchup. I am going to have to check the score of that. Which, speaking of meme matchups, we're at the beginning of college basketball season, where the first week or two, if you look at like those opening days of who teams are playing, I am almost positive that SMU played a church the other day, like a church league team. They played. I got to look it up because I can't even remember. I was like, that cannot be a real school. Where I have it saved on my phone for this.
It's got to be some NAIA school.
I think they were NAIA, because I have never ever heard. Oh, where is that? It was truly one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life when I saw this.
Also, everyone, we might little sneak peek. I'm teasing it every week. Might be some college basketball content in the off season, just to sprinkle in to fill some time.
Sure. So SMU beat the Southwest Assembly of God 82-63. That sounds like a church.
That sounds like a cult. The Southwest Assembly of God?
They played a spinoff of the Waco guys.
Jeez.
In their first game, and allowed them to get 63 points. But back to my meme matchup, it is going to be a visor off between Kirby Smart and Lane Kiffin. And it's the matchup itself is just funny because
it's just the visors. That's the meme matchup. It's just visors.
The visors are just how they both wear them, and like just their overall personalities. Like I do like Kirby Smart. Like I get like we make fun of him with the Kim Jong Kirby and all that kind of stuff. But I like Kirby Smart. But he is so goofy. Like he literally is
so goofy.
So good. Like he doesn't look like he would. He looks like a PE teacher. And then you have Lane Kiffin.
He's got like the 2006 like 16-year-old haircut still.
Yeah.
But
he never
who's going to tell him? The guy can coach a defense, that's for sure. That's what everyone his whole life is. People go, oh, look at this guy. He looks unassuming, kind of a little weird, but damn it, that guy can coach defense.
Right, and you look at their Twitters, and like Lane Kiffin clearly controls his Twitter because he like retweets stuff that like are people like saying that they're gonna get killed and stuff, and like he does the rat poison thing when everyone's like, oh, Ole Miss has a chance in this one, and then Kirby, he doesn't control his Twitter because it'll just be like, congrats to Georgia women's basketball, first win of the season, go Dogs. So they're just so
Kirby
different.
Smart is not watching Georgia women's basketball on Ole Miss week.
No, he's watching like a play Lane Kiffin
5
ran,
hours of film. Yeah.
Yeah, at Fresno
6 years
State
ago.
20 years
Yeah.
ago. So
Yeah.
that's my me matchup of the week. And I think now we can move into our playoff rankings.
All right. Yeah. Let's see what changed. This is kind of our new segment. Like we mentioned last week, instead of doing high-low Buffaloes, we're just going to keep updating our CFB rankings. I'm going to pull mine up real quick. I'm not as prepared. I have it in my notes. Okay, here it is. All right. So let's go. We'll go 1 for 1 like we did last week. I think I'm on your side. I have now moved the Georgia Bulldogs up to the number 1 team in the country. I think we proved that with a ranked win over Missouri. I mean, I can't overthink it, right?
Like Georgia, that's how I've been with them since the beginning of the season. They're still number 1, haven't lost.
I apologize. You hear that, Kirby? I'm putting you at number 1. Do not spin this video. Do not shame us in the city of Athens, please. We have you at number 1. All right.
Also, make sure everyone drives home safely. Kirby Smart. No speed.
Yes. That please make sure everyone drives home safely. Do not get yes. Oh my goodness. Also, make sure those guys who paint their full bodies in paint, I just take a chill pill. Like that video of the guy in the glass, he's like, no.
The best Georgia one this year is I think they were playing like Kentucky or something. And this it was like 2 friends who like clearly were like, oh, we'll go to the game. Like we're probably not gonna win. Like, but we went to Kentucky, let's go. And they're just like walking in the concourse, and it's 2 like Georgia frat boys.
Oh yeah, they're going. Yeah,
he's like holding him by the collar.
Yeah, they're in like the full pledge suit.
I told you guys a couple of years ago, we cannot let Georgia. It's a Pandora's box if they get good. Their fans will become unleashed. It's like releasing the hounds of hell. Like we have to get them back in the box.
I mean, you have stories of Georgia from when they played BSU, and you just hear in the concourse just a ruff, ruff.
The best from that game was I sit down, and I'm in high school at the time, and I'm there with a friend from high school, and we're just surrounded by Georgia fans. The game was in Atlanta. And they're like, so you think you're gonna win? And I was like, I think we have a pretty good shot. We're pretty good. And he's like, just look at these boys down here running in their workout in their pregame thing. Look at all that speed. And anyway, long story short, on Georgia's like second drive, they ran an end around to Brandon Boykin, and he just took off like 80 yards down the field. And I look over to see what the guy's reaction is, and he's just looking at me like. And then we came back and scored 35 unanswered points, I believe, 28 or 35. And
did you see any sad barks?
We did
some like rallying, rallying cry barks, like "Come on!"
That was a weird time because that was like they were getting tired of Mark Richt during that phase of Georgia football because it was the same thing over and over again, and they lost to us, and then they lost the next week to someone, I'm pretty sure, but then won the SEC East and then got killed by LSU. And it was just a weird time for Georgia football. It's like a lot of promise every year. And
Aaron Murray.
Yep, Aaron Murray.
All right. Well, my second team I have just moving down 1 is the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think they had a little bit of a close call, but I don't think you can move them down more than the spot. They were my number 1 team last week, so I got them at my number 2 team this week. Again, not overthinking it. Ryan Day, are you going to call me soft? I don't know. Maybe.
Ryan Day, the world's angriest man for no reason but his own faults, getting mad at 95-year-old Lou Holtz. My number 2 is Michigan. Okay. All right. 2 and 3, like really 2 and 3, I could flip-flop. 3
so that's where
Ohio State, so.
That's my big jump this week. Is I have Michigan at 3. Okay. I disrespected them last week at 5, but they just beat the bricks off Purdue. So they're at 3. They're at 3. Is Michigan or is Ohio State your third?
Kind of the flip-flop.
Fair enough. So then my 4th, because I'm going to give them the edge because they had a ranked win, a win over a Heisman quarterback, is still the Washington Huskies. The Washington Huskies at 4. I think that's a good spot for them but not like safe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if you look at their wins and who they've beaten, it's like, man, this team's good and they've beaten good teams. But if you watch some of the games, it's like, sometimes they kind of like fart up and like will just like miss a play, but the end result's always the same of Washington offense humming and them winning football games.
Yep, agreed.
So you have Washington at 4 too?
Yep, I have Washington at 4, quickly followed by FSU at 5.
Same. I also have FSU at 5. That's my big drop. I had FSU last week at 3. I didn't want to drop FSU. I think FSU, this is a team that controls their own destiny. So whatever team's in that 5th spot should not freak out, because there are literally 6 teams that control their own destiny, maybe even 7 or 8. But yeah, FSU, like I think the little mini scare against Pitt is like drop them a little bit, but like you said, I think Washington and FSU are interchangeable at this point.
Yeah.
Undefeated teams who win big games, who have big wins on their resume, but when you watch them play, it's like, oh man, like they make things harder than they should be sometimes. And not to say that they're a bad team, but that's what I have them. And then I have Alabama still sitting there at 6. I know Texas fans are going to be pissed to hear that because the head-to-head, and I know they won the head-to-head, but I'm so contradicting, because when I watch this Alabama team play, I just think they have a better – it's going to be so weird, that Texas-Alabama dynamic, because head-to-head matchups have to count for something.
Oh, yeah. But,
yeah, it's just like it goes against everything I believe in college football, where it's like I hate they're the actual best team, but like they don't actually look at who's won. But yeah, I think this Alabama team is easily the 6th best team in the country at the moment.
I agree. I have Alabama at 6, and then Alabama and Oregon are the closest for me.
I have Alabama, Oregon. Although the Alabama, Oregon, Texas, those 3 are kind of floaters too in that like next tier of teams, in my opinion. Is there any other team that you think even that can sniff the playoff? I guess you have the scenario for Ole Miss that you will be saying only if they win.
Only if they finish 11-1.
I guess there's still a scenario. We've kind of written off Penn State, but I guess there's no, because they would need Ohio State to completely blow it for Penn State to get in.
Yeah, they would need Ohio State. Mm-hmm. And then I think so if Penn State won this weekend, then they would need Michigan to beat Ohio State. And I think if Michigan beats Ohio State, who will theoretically still be number 1 in the country, when the rankings come out, Michigan will be ahead of Penn State, I would assume. So mm-hmm. I think Michigan would go to the Big Ten championship over Penn State, because it would be highest ranked team, correct?
I think so. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I don't pay attention to the Big 12 because I don't like 20 to 17 games all the time. I like them a little bit. I like them at 9 a.m. West Coast time. That's when I like my 20 to 17 game. I don't want to watch it in prime time. But yeah,
fair enough.
That's the rankings. Anything else you got, Zooch?
Nothing else. Like I said, I'm excited for this week's games.
There's game too.
Everything is staggered, which is really nice. Like you get Michigan, Ohio State at or Michigan, Penn State at 10. In the morning. 1:30, you get the Georgia Tennessee, Missouri game, and there's another one. Like I want to say that Utah game is then too.
Yes. The Utah game I think is like 12:31.
Yeah, you get that, and then you get the night game of Ole Miss and Georgia, which I mean, it could. Who knows? It could be a very.
Then Arizona's ranked.
Arizona's been looking good.
They have been good. All right. Shout out Gronkowski. Well, that's it. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week, everyone.
See everybody.